we're going to start with the buyer question. How does the negotiation process work?
We're going to talk about making an offer, counter offers, things of that nature. So you talk about, what is a fair negotiation? What does it mean to have a fair negotiation?
In the book, it talks about where both sides win, are essentially a structure, a win-win agreement. So no one's really getting taken advantage of. No one's really getting the lion's share of the deal. So
there's no loser.
Right. There's no losers. The only thing I disagree with this part, I don't think that you should really be as concerned about structuring a win-win agreement with somebody you don't know. You don't know the seller. You don't know what their motivation is. All you know about the property that you are expressing interest in is that it's on the market and that it's at a set price. What's a fair negotiation? A fair negotiation for most people is one that's based on the comps. That's a great way to look at it. The comps would be comparative market analysis. So when you're looking at making an offer, your real estate agent is going to prepare you a CMA, comparative market analysis, that's going to look at the subject property and compare it to other properties. And then you make an offer on that. And sometimes on the listing side, those listing CMAs be much more liberal, whereas the buyer's CMA is much more conservative.
So on to offers and counter offers. So every time an offer is made, if you make a counter offer to that, you have rejected the first offer, or your offer has been rejected. So if you offer $600,000 on a property and the seller changes anything, whether they change the price to 610 or they change the closing date, they change the number of days you have to do your home inspection, whatever it is, whatever is changed, they have now officially rejected your offer and have created a counter offer. And each time you go back and forth doing that, you reject an offer, you create a counter offer. If the seller comes back at you, they have a couple different options. Of course, they can come back with a different price, but they can also just reject the offer outright, which we do see oftentimes. As Abraham said, we had a client that made a full price offer on a property last year, and the seller was like, I'm just going to reject this, no counter offer. But sometimes you'll see a seller try to figure out, they want to split the difference. Or if we're $25,000 apart, we'll split it in, $12,500. Or it could be a scenario in which the seller feels like they've priced the home properly, but they don't want to reject your offer. So maybe they come down $5,000. And if that's not enough for you, you may decide, okay, well, they came down to $595. I'll go up to $585. And again, back and forth. Every time there's a counter, then you create a new offer. This is actually a scenario in which you could create some animosity between the two parties if they're going back and forth several times. Like if someone's giving $5,000 here, another person giving $5,000 there, and you're just going back and forth many times, each party kind of gets exasperated with the other party, because why won't you just let me have this house? And for the seller, it's like, why won't you just come up to this price? Because for you, it's going to be just a few dollars a month. Whereas for the seller, they're like, oh, well, for me, it's $10,000, And so just keep in mind when you are doing offers, every time you counter, that is going to be a rejection of the previous offer. Now, when you're countering as a buyer, just know that when you counter that offer, while they're considering your counter offer, they could get another offer from another buyer, because once you reject the counter offer that they've sent you, they're free to entertain other offers. And then, so I said we'll go back and forth many times. And also in other times when we have offer scenarios and we're going back and forth, one party will tell the other. You may have the listing agent say, tell your client come with the best and final offer, or you may have a buyer say, hey, look, this is as high as I'll go. This is my best and final offer. So don't bother countering my offer. I'm offering you $590. I will not go above that amount. Or you'll have a seller who say, I will not go below that amount. This is the final. And that's pretty much it there.
Excellent. I didn't really have much to say on this section here. So the next section is
well, we've already gone over that section, so we can go into this first time home buyer tip. It kind of goes on what we've been talking about for the last few weeks, which is our current market, which we're in a seller's market, which means that we have more buyers than we have inventory. And so typically in those markets, you can expect to pay list price or more. When you're in a buyer's market, you see more and more homes go for list price or even above list price.
One thing to note about the buyer's market, seller's market conversation, this changes geographically. So we were showing properties just last night in Potomac Shores, and for their townhouses, they're not in a seller's market.
They're not. And it's a very unique situation though. It's because, what I think it looks like is because the new constructions are selling for a similar price. So these people, I think, bought these homes 2 years ago, maybe 3 years now, because it's 2023, right? They bought them maybe 2 to 3 years ago, and now they're selling them, and they feel like they can take advantage of the market, which is the market is really high. So I'm going to make a lot of money on this. I'm going to sell it for $100 100 plus more than what I purchased it for.
Right.
But the development is still being built, and so the new builds are being sold for close to what a lot of these sellers are attempting to list their properties for.
Yeah. So the sellers are unrealistic.
The sellers are unrealistic, and the sellers again are trying to take advantage of this market where the home they're saying, "Oh, well, it's $100,000 more than I paid. I should be able to get that." And what they're finding is, I think part of the problem is that we did have that lull in the fall and winter, and so during that time, the builders dropped their prices a little bit. So the builders dropped their price, and it became closer to the resale price. So you have a lot of people who are like, "Well, why would I pay you when I can customize my home for just a few dollars more?" So that I do think that that's interesting. But what we're seeing in the closing is that a lot of these sellers are not getting, or even just not even by what we're seeing by the days on market is that they're not getting even close. And it's not even just that it's the fall market, because some of the properties, when I looked up the history of them, some of them were listed in the spring. But again, if you can get a new construction for close to the same monthly payment, maybe it's not exactly so close dollar amount, or when you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars, but when you're a buyer and you're looking at how much your monthly payment is going to be, it's not that big of a difference. So why would I get this used house when I can get a new one?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. Our clients who are probably going to make an offer on one of the resales that we saw last night were asking the same question, and you could just get it for a discount. So you could get, it's the same amount of square footage, but if you buy a property that's 3 years older, then but you get it for $50,000 less, then that's what people are going to do. Because I mean, after you live in a property, it's used.
It's all used. So that's the thing, right? Is that if one of these homes was built in 2020 comes on the market 5 years from now, and one of the ones that's bought in 2023, they're both used homes. And no one's going to split hairs over the 5-year-old house and the 8-year-old house. So the resale in the future will be around, around the same, depending on the updates and the condition of the properties. It's not like they're doing something different with the ones that are being built today than what they did in the ones that are built in 2020.
I guess the point I was trying to make was the buyer seller market, balance market. Those things fluctuate, or they change even in the geography. So different locations have different types of markets, different property types. Because if you look at like what's going on in the condo market, condos stay on the market longer. So if you took somebody who's using the same townhouse single family home strategy to the condo space, those are two different markets and should be treated as such.
All right. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is bidding wars. So when you have a bidding war, it's just a scenario in which you have multiple people, as you said a few minutes ago, when you have a multiple offer situation. So in that scenario, then you are going to reevaluate your offer scenario, your offer strategy, right? And so that can look like increasing your prices. That can look like shortening your closing period, changing the contingencies you include, or even just the length of those contingencies.
So there are a couple strategies that I think after reading this book, I think that all real estate agents should actually read this book. So one of the strategies they introduce you to is don't be afraid to initially offer the list price or even above the list price. Again, that's going to be market specific. And then the next thing is to remove contingencies, as many as you can or as many as you feel comfortable with. What we found over at least the last 2 years, it takes a couple offers for people to start the process of removing contingencies.
Yes.
The next negotiation strategy they recommend you using is make an open-ended offer. So this is one where you tell the seller, I will pay X above the highest offer. So either that could be a dollar amount increment or that could be a percentage of increment.
And we call that an escalation clause here in Northern Virginia. So in the event that you wanted to make an offer like that, then you would include an escalation clause addendum in your sales contract.
The fourth strategy that they recommend is to let their seller choose the closing time. This option really isn't as significant because most listing agents are telling you when their seller,
When the seller
wants to close.
Yes.
And then number 5, the fifth strategy is I've never seen anybody do this, but it's to create several offer packages or offers and then just submit the one that would win in a multiple offer scenario. What they're recommending or what they're referencing is back in the day when we used to present offers in person, and then you would just have all of the different offer types. You would try to be the person who presented last, and then you would get them to tell you all of the other positions, and then you would just present the winning offer at that time. That doesn't happen now, so it's not something to consider.
Okay.
If you want to position yourself to use this strategy number 5, then really just make the open-ended offer where you just escalate above the highest offer on the table. And yep, that's it.